So, you want to learn how to play the guitar, or any other instrument for that matter? Well, here are some tips to help you reach your goals much more quickly. Hey everybody, Kevin Doe here with Equipboard. In today's video, we'll be doing something different than your typical content here on our YouTube channel. Today, I will be giving you tips and tricks on how to practice much more effectively in order for you to master your instrument much more quickly. So I've spent the better part of the last 25 years as a guitar teacher, having instructed dozens of students over the years, all at different skill levels and ages. And the one thing that I've noticed is that those who accelerated the best had some very good practice habits. Now, just because I mentioned the word practice, it does not necessarily mean you need to slave yourself for hours and hours per day on your instrument, running scales and modes and arpeggios and all of that sort of stuff. However, maintaining good practice habits will certainly help you reach your playing goals much more quickly. It should be important to note that all the tips that I'm going to give you today will work whether you are learning guitar, bass, drums, keyboards, tin whistle, violin, the cello, any instrument. There'll be something here for everybody to pick up and that everybody can apply. So one of the first things that you will need to master your instrument is a very good method. Now, learning methods today come in different shapes and sizes, from method books to tutorial videos on YouTube to online learning platforms such as TrueFire, Pianote, Drumeo, as well as the traditional private instructor. It is best to find the right method for you depending on what you need as a student. Now, here on Equipboard, we did compile a list of the best online guitar learning platforms on our website, where we've done in-depth reviews, discussed the pros and cons of each platform, and gave our honest opinion on each one. Included in the same article are our tips on how to find the right private teacher for you as well. Now, there are pros and cons to both. The biggest pro with online learning platforms and method books is that you can do it on your time. If you're the kind of student who's able to do things on their own with minimal feedback and you're able to grasp things really quickly, an online platform or a method book and doing it on your own might be the best way for you. The biggest con about that, of course, is that you get no feedback on your progress on most of these platforms. Some of them do offer it, most of them don't. So if you're the kind of student who needs to know that they are doing things properly and wants some feedback on technique, where to adjust, you might want to go instead with a private instructor. Now, the biggest pro of a private instructor is that you have someone that you can interact with, ask questions, receive feedback on your playing. However, some of the cons include the fact that you are beholden to a schedule. So if your lesson is at a certain date and time, that is the date and time of your lesson. And with both of these, it's also important to find the right fit, whether it is the right online method, the right method book, the right teacher. So don't be afraid to try a bunch of these out. The big important thing is to find something that works for you. What is also nice about several online learning platforms is that many have set up sequential learning plans, meaning that if you are an absolute beginner, start with this lesson, then go to this lesson, then go to this lesson. If you're an intermediate player, start with this, go with this, go with this. If you want to learn to play a particular style like blues or jazz, start with this course, then go to this course, then go to this course. This really helps you as a beginner or somebody who needs a bit of structure to progress in a proper way. Because one thing about these online learning platforms is that there are tons of lessons, tons of song lessons, scale lessons, playing lessons, rhythm guitar lessons, etc., ad nauseum. Okay, it is very easy to get lost in the weeds. If you compare this to taking in-person lessons with an instructor, there's an obvious method that a good instructor will follow in order for you to ease into technique, rhythm, single note playing, etc., in helping you reach your goals. Now, once you have found a method, we need to dive into the subject of the word that every musician seems to fear, and that is practice. If we want to become good at our instrument, practice is unavoidable. We need to put some time in to work on the things that we have been taught in order to master them, perfect them, and get us ready to go to the next level. Now, one of the things that I tell all my students these days is that we live in very busy times where we have commutes, other activities, school, work, dance classes, football practice, hockey practice, outings, etc., etc. To insist on a certain amount of time every day is not exactly feasible for everybody. So it's really no longer a question of you have to put in an hour a day to be able to master your instrument. Now, if you can, all the better. The more time you put into it, the better, the faster you'll get better. However, the important thing about practice is just simply daily practice. It is picking up the instrument at least once a day to work on the things that you are working on. Whether it be a scale, a song, doesn't matter. The important thing is to pick it up every day for the amount of time that you can pick it up every day. So if one day you can only play for 5 minutes, then practice for those 5 minutes. If the following day you're able to practice for 15 minutes, practice for those 15 minutes. If the following day after that, hey, you have an hour that you can put aside to practice the instrument, go ahead and put in that hour. The amount of time is not exactly the most important factor. The most important factor is doing a little bit every day. The other physical benefit of daily practice is that it also keeps your fingers strong, keeps the tips of your fingers nice and hard once the calluses have formed, so that you have an easier time with your fretting hand. Whether you're playing guitar, drums, piano, whatever, it helps keep your hands and fingers nimble. Much like an athlete trains every day, our hands, our fingers, those muscles also need constant training in order to remain their best. The biggest thing is that if you leave a few days between practice sessions, you will feel it in your hands. And that it'll take a little bit of time just to get things nice, warmed up, and nimble again in order to continue where you left off. So, important thing, daily practice. No matter how much time you have, pick it up every day. Now, the important thing with that daily practice is to have focused practice. While it is fun, we don't just want to pick up our instrument and just start noodling on whatever. It is important that if you are trying to learn something, that you take a bit of time every day during that practice time that you do have and focus on that one thing. Let's say you have 15 minutes in a given day to practice. So just tell yourself, okay, for the first 10, set a timer, turn off all distractions, and just say, for these next 10 minutes, I am only going to work on this as focused as possible in order to improve it, master it, get it comfortable under the fingers. And then for the last 5 minutes, you can work on applying it, you can work on other stuff, you can go ahead and noodle around aimlessly. But the important is to have a little bit of focused practice every single time to work on the stuff that's challenging you. If you do that focused practice, you will come to realize that whatever challenged you before becomes very easy. Now, another practice tip for that daily practice, whenever you are learning something or trying something for the first time, and I see a lot of students struggle with this, take it slow. It is important that we take our time when we are learning something new or trying to master something new, whether it is how to change chords between bars or the craziest Yngwie Malmsteen solo that you can think of. The important thing is to take your time to start. So, for example, the one major thing that I see young students struggle with when they start is simply just changing chords between bars without stopping. Because we are also getting used to moving our fingers back and forth between chords in time. And when we are working on something, taking it slow and focusing on 3 aspects of playing: time, tone, and technique. When I talk about time, it is that we are playing things with very steady time. We don't stop to make chord changes. Every note lands in its proper place rhythmically, and we are as steady as possible. Tone, every note is strong. Every note sounds good. Every chord sounds pristine. There are no dead notes. There are no muffled notes. Everything sounds the way it should. And finally, technique. Are we playing things properly? Is the pick going in the right direction? Are we using the proper finger on our fretting hand? These are the 3 things that you definitely need to focus on, all while taking it slow. Because what we are doing is we are programming things into our brain. We are learning how to synchronize our fingers between the picking hand and the fretting hand. We are learning how to move our fingers quickly enough to change chords without stopping. and we are also learning how to get every note to sound the best that it can. If you focus on these when starting out, all while taking your time, you will find that the harder stuff becomes a lot easier down the road. And with all of that, the other tip is to take advantage of various practice tools. And by tools, I mean the metronome. Now, I do understand that there is nothing more annoying than hearing a clicking sound going on for minutes on end while we're playing guitar or piano or drums. However, it is an invaluable tool to help you develop good time. If you're the kind of player who likes a physical metronome, an actual piece of kit, we have compiled a list over at Equipboard.com that you can check out and pick the one that's right for you. If you would rather have something on your mobile device, go to your device's app store, look up free metronome, and you will find dozens of applications that will certainly fit the bill. Or head on over to Google, type in free metronome in the search bar, hit that enter key, and before you know it, Google will pop up its own built-in metronome. Don't like metronomes? That's fine. The other great practice tool that you can use is a drum machine. Now, once again, you want a drum machine? Head on over to Equipboard.com, where we have compiled a list of the best ones out there in order to help you pick the one that's best for you. Or like the metronome, free online resources do exist. My favorite one being the online drum machine available at Musica.com, which is free, has different drum sounds built into it, can do different time signatures. You can program in your own beat, set the tempo, hit play, and you have something that's a bit more fun and engaging to play with than your standard clickety-clackety metronome. So one of the biggest difficulties I see beginner students have is simply changing chords between bars without stopping. And again, this is where taking things slowly to start can help. For a lot of players, simply going from one chord to another, especially when you're starting out, can be hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3, 4. Okay? Now, I'm a big fan of using a drum machine to help you practice rhythm, as it sort of helps you lock in your time, as well as knowing that one is coming, that downbeat. At the next bar, it sort of forces you to get your hands going. So right now I have the free online drum machine at Musica.com loaded up. I have the tempo set to 60, which is a little bit slow for most players, but it's great for when you're starting out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fire this up and play along to it nice and slow so that you can hear how you can use this to practice. So, and don't be afraid to keep that tempo nice and slow when you are starting out, to be able to give yourself time to move your fingers in the right spots before that downbeat lands. 2, 3, 4. 3, 4, switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, switch. Switch. If you still find that to be too quick, the other trick is to take things at a bit of a half-time speed. So we're not going to change the tempo and bring it down to 30, because that would be ridiculously slow. But what we're going to do is that we are going to stretch out our time so that the beats are longer based on the drum machine. So I'm going to fire it up again. So instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm going to slow it down even more. All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4. And once you have mastered that tempo, things sound good, your technique is right, tone is good, timing is good, you can now speed up your drum machine. So it is now set to 70. We'll do the same thing. 3, 4, go. 2, 3, 4, switch. All right, now we're at 80. Same thing. 3, 4. And what you would do is just keep augmenting the tempo as soon as you master something. But you don't want to go too fast. If going up by increments of 10 is too much, try going up by increments of 5. Hit a tempo that is giving you a hard time, bring things back down a little bit to make it a little bit easier, continue working on it and mastering it, and then bring the tempo back up. Doing this kind of work now will mean that you will do less of this work later on because your fingers will already be used to switching chords. Now for single note stuff, I prefer to use the clickety-clackety metronome as opposed to the drum machine, but use whatever you're comfortable with. So let's say I got this legato lick here that I want to play. Now somebody who wants to learn that for the first time and wants to jump in right away, it's like, oh, I can play that quickly. No. Again, this is something that you're going to want to have to take slowly to start with. Okay, again, focusing on tone, technique, and time. Okay, so for something like this, tone. Every note is nice and strong. Time. All the notes are evenly spaced. Technique in this case, pick stroke down on the start of every string and 2 hammer-ons following. So I'm going to start the metronome at 70 BPM, playing 3 notes per beat. And as soon as I'm comfortable with what I'm playing at that tempo, I'm going to bring it up. So here we go. All right, if I'm comfortable with that, let's bring it up. Let's try it at 80. That felt pretty good. Let's try it at 90. That felt pretty good. Let's try it at 100. So as you progress, you basically keep augmenting the metronome's tempo up until you reach sort of a goal tempo for me, which was 160. So I got it set to 160. I've done all the work. Let's see how it feels at 160. So if you reach a certain tempo, but you find out your playing is still a little bit sloppy, you're not getting the tone, you're not getting the time, you're not getting the technique down properly, don't be afraid to slow things down, master it at a slower speed, and then try bringing it up again. You'll find that it becomes much more easier if you do that. So let's not forget that learning an instrument is supposed to be fun and enjoyable, but it is also a bit of work in order to reach the goals that you want to reach. And that doesn't matter what your goals are. If your goal is to simply strum some Beatles songs next to a campfire, or like I say, become the next Yngwie Malmsteen, if you use these tips to instill some great practicing habits, you will find that you will reach your goals much more quickly. So if you've enjoyed this video, do give it a like. Please share it with any new musicians who are starting out on the instrument who can benefit from these tips. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you are subscribed or you've just subscribed, don't forget to hit that notification bell so that you are apprised of new videos the second they become available. Once again, for Equipboard, my name is Kevin Doe. Thank you very much for watching. We'll see you in the next video, and get practicing.